Wilson Pro Staff 97, classic edition, classic frame, here to compete against frames like Prestige or Percept, maybe Vicor 95. I am a classically developed player. I want to feel the swing, redirecting pace. In theory, racket for me. To be honest, slightly disappointed. Maybe I got spoiled a little bit with all the newest releases, and here I am touching an old school racket. Maybe it is partly associated with the specs. I got slightly off balanced racket, slightly too head heavy by approximately 5 millimeters, quite a lot for this type of racket, this type of frame. And usually when I pick a classic racket, the specs tolerance I think is a bit better. Prestige almost on the dot. Percept, obviously with Yonex everything is almost perfect. And yeah, Wilson, they promised us better quality control. So what was it like before? Yeah, tail waving the racket a bit maybe would fix the wave distribution towards what I actually should feel with this frame. This one was closer to blade line, I would say. But yeah, let's discuss the performance. I think for such a classic racket, the power potential was quite big. The sweet spot is small, so if I hit the ball slightly outside the sweet spot, I felt a slightly deadier response, and when I was hitting a bit more clean, the power potential was waking up. I used here Technifiber Razor Soft at 23 kilos, relatively soft and responsive string, so it might play a role here. I think I was quite surprised with the access to power, especially on my backhand side, but yes, hitting slightly outside of the sweet spot was killing this response. Slightly hot and cold, depending where you catch the ball on the string bed. Last time I used Pro Staff was maybe like 10 years ago. The response is quite similar, I would say. Nothing changes that much with the Pro Staff 97. Used to play with the Pro Staff 95 16-15 string pattern. It was 95S, quite fun racket, and this one is more powerful than the one I used in the past. More classic, but for such weird wave distribution I was quite disappointed. I actually prefer heavy yet headlight rackets, so I was quite excited for this review. And yeah, quality control slightly killed it for me. Compared to the Yonex Percept 97, I would say this one is more powerful, and Percept 97 also has this hot and cold type of response. Sometimes the ball was dying on the string bed, sometimes I was hitting a bit too far. Maybe the forgiveness was a bit better compared to Percept 97. I suspect it is purely associated with the specs. This racket, Wilson racket, is a more beefy one, so obviously slightly deadier. Design of the racket got evened out with the response when the specs are heavier. This is quite a typical adjustment players do with their classic rackets. They play with it as a heavy frame, so they take bigger cuts on the ball and let the mass of the racket do its job. Percept 97 for such a classic racket is a bit too anemic in specs. Vicor 95 as well. Difference compared to Vicor 95, I would say with the Vicor I can play a more loopy ball, spinny ball. Here the launch angle is much lower, more classic in response. Vicor is more universal, you can play flat, you can play loopy, yet The 95 gives you this confidence to hit out. Still, I would say Yonex Vicro 95 is a bit too anemic in specs, a mistake in design, in my opinion. So yeah, Pro Stuff is closer to what I would normally use with this type of racket. And now compared to the recent release from Head, Speed Tour 97 also, I would say the forgiveness is quite similar. Maybe Speed slightly more forgiving, definitely more consistent in its response. I added a leather grip to my Speed Tour to make it more headlight, and yeah, the balance point was much better there. I prefer the wave distribution of the Speed Tour. I feel it now more as a classic racket, more classic than the classic Pro Staff 97. So that's a huge statement. What can be more classic than the Pro Staff 97? Not many rackets can match the definition of a classic racket now. Here again, slightly disappointed with the quality control. Maybe my technique suffered with this type of racket. Heavy in static wave, head heavy in balance, and with higher swing wave, so everything is maxed out. Other racket that is quite similar in specs had Prestige Tour. With the Prestige Tour, my strokes were more fluid, so something with the wave distribution and probably quality control of the Prestige Tour was just making it a better frame overall. Here something is off. I'm not sure if it's a power racket, control-oriented racket, if it's a feel and touch oriented frame, or maybe everything in between. And I suspect specs, quality control played a role here. Yeah. So that's it for this review. If you have any questions, let me know, and see you soon. Bye bye.